Hello! So here we are in my very cramped music room. Unfortunately I don't have a decent workshop space. And here is shell of the drum. So this is the one I won from EMS. I kind of expected, rather naively, not being a percussionist, that it would just be a case of putting the thing together. I didn't realise there was actually going to be things I'd have to do. So apparently the first thing is that this medieval drum has a snare which goes at the top. These two pins here, you can see here, and at the other side, are going to be what hold and control the snare. I've had them drilled. See the little hole? Possibly not. One was already drilled. One I got my very good friend and compatriot Tony Grasso, our DT technician at the school I work at, to do. I was worried I'd be a bit clumsy with that because it was a very small margin of error. So these go in here, and we need to create a small dip on each side to allow that snare wire, or string as it is here. I didn't realise this had a snare. Slightly different from what I'd expect. Again, not being a percussionist, it's in the big metal snares they've got. It's just a piece of string, possibly gut, that's going to go across the two, and again tightened with these two pegs. So we're going to create a small indentation for that to sit, and then the whole thing is going to need sanding and varnishing. I'm just going to do a clear varnish, maybe 3-4 coats, sanding down in between each one. So that's going to be pretty boring. Might have to do that as a montage. See you soon. Okay, so we're on day 2. We now have a varnished shell, 3 coats, sanded in between. So the next stage is going to be to prep the skins. I'm going to soak those either for 3 to 4 hours as recommended, or until the hole punch arrives, because in my erratic set of tools I don't have a hole punch, and realised that that was kind of essential. I'll need to measure up the skins once they're wet, and then punch holes in corresponding intervals to allow us to thread the rope through and put the tension on, which apparently is the critical stage. So let's go and start soaking some skins. Right, so we have a box of hot but not boiling water. We have the dehydrated skins, kind of sort of like poppadoms. So we'll pop those in. Hopefully they're going to sink. Let's get nice and wet. Soaked through. Nice and floppy. Ready for hole punching after they've been measured, and then stretching onto the drum shell. So let's try and get across once. Just inside. We've got a hole. Heavy buggery. It's going to take a while.
blood upon the snow, shed so green things all may grow. As we have reaped, so will we sow after this winter tide. Bringing meat and bringing bread, a new king lives, the old king dead, a new king for the year.
Hello again. So, the next morning. Drum is completely dry. It looks like it's dry quite evenly. Everything's looking good on both sides. So, I've made a start on the buffs. These little shims that help you adjust the tightness. I've just tied up the excess string. It does warn in the instructions not to cut it prematurely in case you want to use it as a strap or bind it in a fancy knot around the drums. Not quite in fancy knot mode at the moment, so we'll just keep it there for now. So the buffs, and these little leather straps, and again I'm just binding them as I see in the pictures, so they can be pulled down on the primary plain skin, and we can take it from there. So gather two up. Right, so here we are, the completed article. You can see we've now got the snare across the top. I'm still not sure exactly how tight that should be. Again, don't want to break it, so I'll just keep going until sound changes. We've got all the shims on, the buffs, which I'll put down quite a way. I've had it go, it still sounds a little bit loose to me. I'm sure there's some work to do. I'm just getting a bit tighter. And finally, got the belt strap, or the belt hook, which doesn't feel very secure, particularly with, how should we say it, my belt situation. I think that's a fairly easiest way to say it. But yeah, let's just have a quick, I know it's resting there. Let's try and get it on the hook. Might have to edit here. Love to try this with some soft beaters as well. Have to dig some out. Got some somewhere.
Wow.
Yes, on my own work. Okay, so just some final thoughts having completed this project. Just want to say thank you again to the Early Music Shop, EMS, for this wonderful prize. It was great to win a competition, and it was great to work with wood and skin. I'm not a practical person or a technical person, but I got there eventually. I have done bits and bats in the music trade, so I had an inkling, maybe more than a layman, of what was involved, but not much more, with not being, as I've repeatedly said, a percussion player. But I do like medieval music. Recently got the hurdy-gurdy, so still ploughing away at that. If I ever get round to recording it, this will be the perfect accompaniment. Some other thoughts: the instructions were quite clear, even as I say for a layman. I think maybe splitting them up a bit more, or dividing them between the different drums, because the same instruction sheet, obviously because there's a lot of overlap between Renaissance drums and tabors and what have you. Obviously if you read all the instructions first before you start, you shouldn't have a problem, but if you played on at the beginning, you're sort of toing and froing between. But apart from that, everything was fairly straightforward. So yeah, it maybe encouraged me to have a go at another kit. If you've ever got a spare loop knocking about, pass it my way. Thanks again, and goodbye for now.